The world was a big place, full of rushing sounds and hurried feet. In this wide, busy world, there was a person. This person moved through days like many others, with work to do, places to be, and thoughts that filled the quiet moments. Life was a pattern of waking, doing, and sleeping. It was not a bad life, but sometimes, in the still of the evening, or when a certain song played, there was a feeling of something missing, a quiet ache for connection not yet found. Then, one day, in a place neither grand nor particularly special, a place of everyday happenings, another person appeared. It was not a dramatic entrance, no sudden shift in the light, no music swelling. It was simple, a glance, a shared moment of waiting. Perhaps it was for a bus, or in a line for coffee, or at a park bench where both had sought a moment of rest. The first person noticed the other's eyes. They were kind eyes, holding a gentle light. The other person noticed a smile, small and hesitant, but warm. Words were exchanged, few at first. Simple words about the weather, or the slowness of the queue, or the beauty of a nearby flower. The words themselves were not important. It was the way they were said, the feeling behind them, a feeling of openness, a willingness to share a small piece of their day with a stranger. They parted ways that first time, a little lighter in spirit. The world seemed a tiny bit brighter. There was no plan to meet again, no exchange of numbers or promises. Yet a small seed had been planted, a thought of another person, a pleasant memory of a brief connection. As fate, or chance, or perhaps just a rhythm of life would have it, their paths cross again. And again, each meeting was like adding a drop of water to that small seed. The conversations grew a little longer. They learned small things about each other. Favorite colors, a fondness for old books, a shared love for the quiet of early mornings. These were not grand revelations, but tiny pieces of a puzzle, slowly fitting together. The first person found themselves looking forward to these unplanned encounters. A walk taken with a little more hope, an errand run with a bit more anticipation. The other person, too, felt a gentle pull, a sense of pleasant surprise when their eyes met across a crowded room or a quiet street. There was a shyness between them, a careful dance of words and gestures, a fear, perhaps, of hoping for too much, of disturbing the delicate balance of these new, fragile interactions. But beneath the shyness, something was growing, a warmth, a comfort, a feeling of being understood without needing many words. One day, one of them, a little braver than usual, suggested a planned meeting, just a coffee, perhaps, or a walk in the park they both seemed to enjoy. The suggestion hung in the air for a moment, full of unspoken possibilities. Then a nod, a smile, and a simple, yes, that would be nice. The first planned meeting was full of a quiet joy. They talked more freely, sharing stories from their past, dreams for their future. Not big, dramatic dreams, but simple hopes for happiness, for peace, for a life filled with good things. They discovered more shared paths, more common threads in the tapestries of their lives. They laughed, and the sound was easy and genuine. As they sat together, the world outside seemed to fade a little. The noise of the city, the rush of people, all became a distant hum. In their small space, there was a sense of calm, a feeling of rightness. It was as if two streams, flowing separately for so long, had finally found a place where their waters could meet and mingle. The meetings became more regular. Walks turned into shared meals. Shared meals turned into quiet evenings spent talking, or simply being in each other's company. The silence between them was no longer awkward, but comfortable, filled with an unspoken understanding. The feeling grew, day by day, like a slow sunrise. It was not a sudden, fiery passion, but a gentle, steady warmth that spread through their hearts and settled there. It was in the way they looked at each other, a lingering glance that said more than words ever could. It was in the small gestures, a hand offered to help, a shared umbrella in the rain, a cup of tea made just the way the other liked it. One evening, as they walked under a sky full of stars, one of them reached out and gently took the other's hand. It was a simple touch, yet it sent a shiver of warmth through them both. Their fingers intertwined, a perfect fit. In that moment, without a single word spoken, everything changed. The unspoken question was answered. The unspoken feeling was acknowledged. Love. It was a simple word, yet it held the whole world for them. Their lives began to weave together more closely. They shared their joys, and their joys doubled. They shared their worries, and their worries halved. The first person no longer felt that quiet ache of something missing. The space had been filled, not by grand adventures or exciting escapades, but by the steady, comforting presence of the other. The other person found a depth of happiness they hadn't known was possible. A happiness that came from seeing the smile on the first person's face, from hearing their laughter, from knowing they were loved truly and deeply. They built a home together, not just a place with walls and a roof, but a sanctuary of warmth and love. It was filled with the scent of shared meals, the sound of quiet conversations, the comfortable presence of two people who belonged together. Mornings began with a shared cup of coffee and a soft good morning. Evenings ended with a gentle good night and the peace of knowing the other was close by. There were challenges, of course. Life is never without its small bumps and a few bigger ones. There were days of disagreement, moments of frustration, times when the world outside tried to push its way in with its worries and its noise. But they learned to navigate these moments together. They learned to listen, truly listen, to each other. They learned to forgive, to understand, and to remember the deep well of love that connected them. Their love was not a shield against all sorrow, but it was a comfort, a strength, a hand to hold in the darkness. It was a knowledge that they were not alone. Years passed. The seasons turned, again and again. Their hair might have shown a few threads of silver, and their steps might have become a little slower, but the light in their eyes when they looked at each other remained as bright as ever. The love that had started as a tiny seed had grown into a strong, deep-rooted tree, its branches spreading wide, offering shade and shelter. They found joy in the simple things. A shared glance across a room, a comfortable silence, the warmth of a hand held. They had created a world of their own, a world built on kindness, understanding, and a love that asked for nothing but to be. They would sit together, sometimes, in the quiet of the evening, perhaps on a porch swing or by a warm fire, and look back on their journey. They wouldn't talk about grand achievements or dramatic events. They would remember the small moments, the first hesitant smile, the shared coffee, the day their hands first met. These were the treasures of their life together, the simple, beautiful moments that had woven the fabric of their love. The first person would look at the other, the lines of time etched gently on their face, and see the same kind eyes that had first caught their attention so long ago. The other person would see the same warm smile, perhaps a little softer now, but just as loving. Their love story was not one for the history books or the dramatic films. It was a quiet story, a simple story. It was a story of two people who found each other in a big, busy world, and built a life filled with a love that was gentle, steady, and true. It was a love that didn't need loud declarations or grand gestures. It was a love that lived in the everyday moments, in the quiet understanding, in the comforting presence of one another. And so, they continued, walking hand in hand, their hearts full, their journey together a testament to the simple, profound beauty of a love found and cherished. The world around them might continue to rush and hurry, but in their shared space, there was always peace, always warmth, always love. It was enough. It was everything. They had learned that love wasn't about finding the perfect person, but about seeing an imperfect person perfectly. It was about patience, about kindness, about choosing to love every single day, through sunshine and through rain. Their home was not just a physical place, but a feeling they carried within them, a feeling of belonging to each other. Sometimes they would watch younger people, full of restless energy, searching for something they couldn't quite name. They would smile, a knowing, gentle smile. They remembered that feeling, and they knew the secret, that the greatest adventures are often found not in distant lands or daring feats, but in the quiet landscape of a shared heart. Their days were filled with small rituals of affection. A flower picked from the garden, a favorite song played softly, a story read aloud. These were the threads that kept their bond strong and vibrant. They didn't need to impress each other anymore. They simply were together, and that was the most impressive thing of all. They saw the world change around them. New buildings rose, old ones came down. Fashions came and went. But the core of their life, their love for each other, remained constant, a steady anchor in the ever-turning tide of time. They taught, by their example, that love is not about possession, but about appreciation. It's about giving the other person space to be themselves, while also creating a shared space where both can flourish. Their love was a garden they tended together, weeding out misunderstandings, watering it with kindness, and watching it bloom season after season. Even in moments of illness or sadness, their bond was a source of immense strength. One would care for the other with a tenderness that spoke volumes. A cool cloth on a fevered brow, a comforting word in a moment of fear, the steady presence that said, "I am here. You are not alone." These were the times when their love shone brightest, a beacon in the storm. Their friends and family, those who knew them, saw the quiet beauty of their connection. They saw how two lives, once separate, had merged so seamlessly, creating something stronger and more beautiful than either could have been alone. They were an inspiration, a reminder that true love, though perhaps rare, was indeed possible. They never took their love for granted. Each morning was a fresh start, an opportunity to cherish each other anew. They knew that love required effort, not a strenuous, burdensome effort, but the gentle, consistent effort of paying attention, of being present, of choosing kindness. As the sun would set on their days, casting long shadows, they would often find themselves simply sitting in comfortable silence, the day's tasks done. In these moments, the depth of their connection was palpable. It was a silence filled with shared memories, unspoken affection, and profound sense of peace. Their love story was written not in grand pronouncements, but in the millions of tiny, everyday acts of care and affection. It was in the way their hands still sought each other out, even after so many years. It was in the knowing glances that passed between them, full of shared history and understanding. It was in the gentle rhythm of their life together, a rhythm of love, companionship, and unwavering support. The person who once felt a quiet ache for something missing now felt only fullness. The other person, who had found a depth of happiness, saw that happiness deepen and mature with each passing year. Their journey was not about reaching a destination, but about the way they walked the path together, hand in hand, their hearts intertwined. And so, their simple, beautiful love story continued, a quiet melody in the grand orchestra of life, a testament to the enduring power of two hearts beating as one. It was a love that was real, a love that was lasting, a love that was quite simply everything.